All right, old school NBA fans, self-research NBA facts. I got another video here for you. Look, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. If you like this new modern NBA, great. Enjoy it, have fun with it. You know, I loved the NBA when I was growing up. I mean, it was awesome. You know, I grew up watching Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Dr. J and Moses Malone. I mean, those were the best players in the league. I mean, they were great. Still all-time greats, no doubt about it. The stuff that those guys could do, the league was a lot different then. But they've taken the defense almost out of the league in a way. I know in the playoffs the scores aren't quite as high. It's like now they're taking it serious. It's just completely different. You know, before you knew who the best teams were based on the seeding. Now you have no idea who the best teams are. You know, I mean, you just don't. Seeding doesn't mean a thing anymore. It just doesn't. I already did a video and covered all that stuff. But this video specifically, what I'm getting into is this. I've heard over and over about how skilled this era is. Skilled. It's more skilled. So, if what you're referring to is, oh, they got better handles, they're better shooters, or whatever, I don't know. You know, there's no proof to that because you can go by the eye test, sure. But you have to take into account how lax the rules are. That the defenders are almost handcuffed now. You know, we all know about that. There's no defensive 3 seconds. There's no hand checking. All that stuff was allowed. There was no flagrant foul until 1991. So, what skills are we really even talking about? Because I did a little comparison here, and I looked at what I consider the new age era, which is 2016 to 2024. That covers 9 seasons. And I compared a lot of these alleged skills to other eras. I don't see it. Okay, so points per game. The best point per game, and from 2016 to 2024, was James Harden. He had 36.1. I compared all these stats to the 80s. The 80s had a guy scored 37.1. Of course, that was Jordan. All right. So the 80s had a guy who scored more points than this, super lax, easy to score era. Teams averaging 110, 115, 120 a game. Nope, couldn't beat them in points per game. Rebounds per game was the only stat I saw. Andre Drummond in 2018 had 16 rebounds a game. In the 80s, the highest was Moses Malone at 15.3 in 1983. Okay? Assists per game. In 2016 to now, the highest one was 11.7, and that was in 2016 and 2021. I think that was Russell Westbrook in 21 and Chris Paul in 16. But in the 80s, you had Isaiah Thomas got 13.9, Stockton got 13.8, 13.6, Magic had a 13.1. Many players, 5-6 years, and that's just the leaders. Better than any assist. So the assist skill, which it's easier to get now, the 80s was better. Points per game, 80s was better. Rebounds per game, this era had a slight edge. Steals per game, the best in this era is 2.4. Back in the 80s, every year the league leader was over 2.4, with the best being Al Robertson, got 3.7 in 1986. How about blocks per game? The best was in 2016, 3.7. In the 80s, it was Mark Eaton. In 1985, had 5.6, dwarfs that. Okay, how about free throw percentage? That's one that translates over all eras. In this era, 2016 to now, the best number was 93.4. That was in 2023. In the 80s, Calvin Murphy shot 95.8. 80s was better at that skill. So again, I don't know what skill. I didn't bring any three-point shooting into it because it just wasn't done enough. But all these other skills are done plenty. Now, how about the 90s? How did the 90s stack up? Well, in points per game, James Harden's 36.1 beats Michael Jordan's 33.6 in 1990, which was the highest of the decade. Rebounds per game, though, the 90s was better, 18.7. Assists per game, 90s was better, 14.5. That was Stockton. 14.5 to, again, 11.7. Steals per game, 3.0. That was done by, I think, Jordan, Stockton, and I think maybe even Pippen, 3.0. And again, in this era, 2.4. Blocks per game, 4.6. Olajuwon in 1990. The best in this era, 3.7. How about free throw shooting? Mark Price in 1992 shot 94.7. In 1993, shot 94.8. In 1994, shot 95.6. All three are better than the 93.4, which was the best of this era. So again, better shooters? I don't see it. Free throws will show you right there. In 1998, there was a 93.9. I can't recall what player that was, but there was another guy who had a better season than anybody of this era at the free throw line. So again, of the 6 stats that I compared, the 80s was better at 5 out of 6. The 90s was better at 5 out of 6. Where's all these skills? You'd think that these guys have a 99% free throw shooter. You know, they'd have, 15 assist guys and, 20 rebound a game guys and, 35, 40 point guy. I don't see any of it. Where are they? Don't see it. So then I even went a little farther and I did the 2000s. Now the 2000s, the best one was Kobe at 35.4. This era was better. Rebounding, the best was 15.4. This era is better. At assists per game, 11.6 was the best in the 2000s. This era is better. In steals, 2.9 in the 2000s is better than the 2.4 of this era. In blocks, it's a tie, both at 3.7. And in the 2000s, they had better free throw shooting. There was a 95% in 2000 and a 98.1, which I think that was Carlos Arroyo or Rudy Fernandez or I think it was Jose Calderon, 98.1 in 09, which I think is a record. That was better. But yeah, this era had some better stats than the 2000s did, no doubt. And I even compared 2010 through 2015 to see. And this era was better in points per game, rebounds per game. Now assists per game I think was a tie. Both had 11.7. 2.5 to 2.4 in steals, close, and then tied at 3.7. In 2014, a guy shot 94%, which is better than this era. But as you can see, 2000s and 2010s, this era is very comparable, if not even maybe a hair better. Maybe there is more skilled players in the 2000s and the 2010s. It's, maybe. Just going by this. Now, this isn't overall, like all the players and, the majority and in general. No, I'm just talking about who was better, like who had the better leaders at those stats. But the 80s and 90s, no way. They were much more skilled than any other era. I just showed you all the major stat categories. If that means anything, then you have to say that the 80s and 90s were the most skilled era. If you go by the major stats, points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, steals per game, blocks per game, and free throw percentage. There just leaves no doubt about it. again, I don't understand it. I don't know what skills specifically you guys are talking about. Maybe it looks better, whatever. But on paper, there is no evidence that this era is more skilled than the 80s and the 90s. You can make an argument for this century, the 2010, the 2000s and the 2010s. Sure, maybe. You know, there is some evidence to that. But the 80s and 90s, no, I don't think so. There is no evidence of that whatsoever. So anyway, that's it for this video. Kind of a shorter one. I did this research. I wanted to get it out there, see what people think about it. You know, do you think I should be looking at something else? Or is this not evidence that the 80s and 90s had more skillful players at every stat that they track? Well, again, I did put in three-pointers because it just got instituted in 1980. People weren't even shooting one a game on average. So I didn't get into that. Now, you probably could in the 2000s and the 2010s where they shot more, yeah. But the 80s and 90s, I mean, I don't see how anybody can tell me it's a more skilled era looking at this. So anyway, that's it for this video, and thanks for watching.